The Utah Jazz are issued $100,000 fine for tanking. What do we think?
Once again, folks, before we get into content, we wanted to tell you about Utah Jazz DNA. This is our channel specifically for your Utah Jazz. All of our content for your Utah Jazz will be placed here on Utah Jazz DNA. Be sure you're subscribed to the channel. Make sure you hit that notification bell. Once this channel hits 1,000 subscribers, we're going to be giving away one of those new Utah Jazz Road black jerseys. So be sure to check it out. We'd love to have you on board. So be sure to subscribe and yeah, smash that like button for your boy AJ right over there.
Boom, make it happen.
All right, so let's go ahead and get into our first topic here that we want to discuss, which was the Utah Jazz. The Utah Jazz were hit with $1,000 fine.
$100,000.
Sorry.
Yeah.
$100,000 fine for violating the player participation policy. Did you read this?
I absolutely did.
Yeah, this is great, man. According to the league, the violation occurred when the Jazz failed to make player Lauri Markkanen available when Utah took on the Washington Wizards of all teams on March 5th, as well as some other recent games. What's your take on this?
You know the best part about this whole thing?
What's that?
The Jazz have a better record when Markkanen is out at 6-16 than they do when he plays at 9-37.
Really?
Yeah. So with Lauri on the floor, they've actually been way worse.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, Markkanen's having obviously an off year. I mean, he hasn't played significantly less games though, because realistically he's missed like 22 games this season. But I mean, that's very similar to his 55 game total from last year. Right?
Well, they also did this last year too.
And yeah, I mean, you're right, but it felt like he was on the floor more last year than it did like he was on this year. Like it's felt like it's been pretty repetitively Lauri's out. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so,
this definitely was the first year where it definitely felt like they were, since the beginning of the year, they haven't tried. But I think at the beginning of last year, they did try a little bit more. And at the deadline, when they tried to make some moves to bring in some more talent.
And then once they did, they just shut him down.
They just basically, shut him down. And I think that's kind of what it talked about. Ken Pomeroy did an excellent interview when he talked about this. Where he said, Spence Checketts of ESPN 700 said he feels like the Jazz are kind of being singled out here.
100%.
Yeah. So, but this time he's like, it's about the excessive amount of time. It wasn't just about the excessive amount of time Markkanen has been missing lately. It was just the tip of the iceberg. The league has been paying attention to how the team aggressively engaged in tank behavior in the second half of the season for the last 3 years. And when they do these investigations, it happened to Dallas when they sidelined both Luka and Kyrie if they played that last game and won that last game, then they lost their draft pick.
Yeah.
So they intentionally sat them. So it's kind of similar to an investigation at that standpoint. At this point, they felt that they met the restrictions there, and the Jazz got hit with that $100,000 fine. I don't know, man. I could see that, but I could also understand, like, dude, this is not something that's exclusive to the Utah Jazz.
No, I mean, you're absolutely right. And the fact is every team tanks. Every team's, well, not every team. Okay?
Third of the league.
Yeah.
Third of the league is trying.
Yeah. I mean, right, but exactly. The fact is there is a third of the league right now that is actively trying to lose basketball games. All of them are in a power struggle to try to get to that last spot or those top 3 spots to get their 14% chance to get the number 1 overall pick. And the Jazz are doing it. They're obviously, since this happened, that you've seen Lauri in every game since then.
Right.
I think he might be inactive tonight.
He is inactive tonight. Yes.
But this is
important game,
which is funny because it's against Washington.
Right. Both have 15 wins. Yeah.
It's the tankathon game of all time. Like, who can be worse all night?
Yeah. I think that's kind of the point. If all the other teams that are kind of in this mix of the bottom 5, let's say, out of all of them, we're the only ones with an active all-star on the team.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's kind of the problem. Like, the other 4 teams would have traded this guy away, and we didn't. So it's kind of a target on our back. This guy has a win share of over 28 win shares per season when he's playing in normal minutes on a team that's trying.
And I think that's probably the number that sticks out the most, right? Is the fact is Lauri's good for 28 wins just by himself.
Yeah.
Like, just send Lauri out there with 4 other crazy people and he's going to still get you 28 wins.
His win share is 28, and this year his win share is 3.
Yeah.
So that's kind of showing you what the Jazz are doing intentionally, and it's kind of obvious. So yes, I kind of see that side of it. I do understand that they're kind of making it obvious of what they're doing, but at the same time, man, I really think it's kind of sus that we're the only ones that got popped for that $100,000 fine. I think it's a little sus on that.
Yeah.
There's got to be, like, I could probably, if you and I could both sit here and think about it for maybe 10 minutes, and we can find other evidences of when teams did this in the last couple of years where it's been quite obvious.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I mean, like I said, maybe it's just because other teams didn't have an all-star caliber player that needed to sit. And I don't know. I could be wrong on that one.
I would be curious, and we probably should have researched that a little bit more. But I think you're absolutely right. I guarantee there are some teams that have quote unquote all stars that have sat them blatantly to lose basketball games.
Yeah, it's been a bit ridiculous. And it's fine. It is what it is. And I'm pretty sure the Utah Jazz have no problem paying that $100,000 fine. Did you see what happens if they get hit for it again, though?
It's like
$250,000 fine,
and then it goes to $1 million.
Yeah,
and then $1.5 million.
But as long as you don't lose your draft position, I don't think it matters to these teams. Would you pay $1 million to ensure you had a top 3 draft pick?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I don't think that really does anything. Like, what are we actually doing to hurt these teams? I don't know. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
They're just taking this $100,000 and handing out pay raises to referees. They're just like, here we go, more money.
I'm not sure if that's where it goes. Most of the fines go to NBA charities, but yeah, who knows? Pretty sure there's a tinfoil hat answer somewhere in there.
Oh, guaranteed.
Yeah. I mean, I can't believe that we're in a league where a third of the league is intentionally trying not to win games. Like, it's just it's kind of gross.
I think some of the problem some of the reason that this is so highlighted is because we're Jazz fans and we're in the middle of this right now. This happens every single year. You know what I mean? But for the past, we've been really lucky as Jazz fans because we've been competitive for so long. And the fact is we're right in the middle of the worst season the Jazz have ever had.
Yeah, I can understand, but the whole rebuilding process, in Philly, I think that's when this really started, in my opinion. Some people push back and say, "Oh no, is when the Spurs tanked to make sure they got Tim Duncan."
Yep.
But it's, I guess you could go back and say it's a little further than that, but I don't know. I think it's been more prevalent that more teams are trying not to win lately.
Yep.
But anyway, we'd love to hear from you folks. Let us know what you think. Drop in the comments. Let us know on that for sure. Now,
go Jazz.
We have an article that came out by Sarah Todd of the Deseret News. The title of this one is "The State of the Utah Jazz Rebuild: A Timeline for Contention." We'll link to the article in the description down below so you guys can check it out. I felt like this article served us to chat a little bit about it.
Yeah.
So before I get to my usual glass half empty, knocked off the shelf by your annoying cat, why don't you go ahead and tell me what your takeaways were from this article, AJ?
I think the big thing is fans want to know when this Jazz team is going to contend for a title, right? And as of right now, it's unclear to everybody's Jazz fan when.
I think it's unclear to the front office,
or if this is even going to happen, right?
Yeah.
Because right now we're in our 3rd losing season. We did a complete roster overhaul, and I think as Jazz fans, we're starting to feel the tank fatigue.
For sure.
It's very important. It's starting to hurt because watching a team lose 50, 60, 70 games in a season is just really hard as a fan base. And the worst part of this is the front office can't just come out and say we're tanking. They're going to tell you that we're doing our best to win ball games and we're developing young talent. And
right.
But the fact is we all know what they're doing, and we've moved on. We shipped away a team that was really competitive, and it's really hard to keep looking to the next player every single year.
Right, because what we've seen hasn't paid off yet.
Exactly.
We haven't seen that next player that's going to be the next Donovan Mitchell, the next Rudy Gobert on this team. That's kind of been one of the things that I want to talk about. There's a few things that were kind of the takeaways that I have on this one. The first one is going to be that they said basically the first 3 years were a teardown, and this is the first year of the rebuild cycle. I don't know if you took that. That's kind of one of my interpretations of what she said.
Yeah.
But on this one, and don't get me wrong, I think you did a great job on this article. That's why we're talking about it. Sarah, you did a fantastic job.
Yeah.
We're not knocking on you. What I'm talking about is how I'm taking from this. Now that's what you want to try and say when you completely miss the mark on their first 2 years of tanking. When you royally screw it up and you don't do it right.
You've got to mold that so that it feels right.
Yeah. That's kind of what I've always thought. I'm like, these guys should have tanked last year. They should have tanked the year before. They should have had Wemby on this team. They should have done a lot more to try and if you're going to be bad, be bad. Don't do this whole see what you got and then drop it all in the middle of the season. But there's been some indication, this article reminded me that there's been some indication this team may have simply have been doing that. Like they weren't trying to take this whole time and they were trying to do that. Like, why did they even bother trying to trade for Drew Holiday and DeJounte Murray if they were continuing to check? Like,
yeah, if they were tanking, right.
If they didn't, there's so many other all-star level players over the last 2 seasons that they made efforts to go get in a trade that they just failed at. So, now we're like, okay, full rebuild, let's go. So that kind of gives me a little bit of pause on that mentality that maybe gives me a little bit of hope that this front office, is being competent in some things, because maybe that's what they were trying to do. They weren't expecting Larry to be as good as he was. So they're like, okay, we're not gonna be able to tank right away. So let's just try and retool in the draft. If we don't do well by the All-Star break, if we look like we're going to be a playoff team, let's make some trades.
Yeah.
And get in there. But I don't know. What do you think?
I think you absolutely nailed it. I think the fact is I do not think when the Jazz moved all of those pieces for, when they moved Donovan and they moved Rudy, and getting Lauri Markkanen back was supposed to be, he was maybe a potential piece to this in the future. Lauri wasn't supposed to come in and become an all-star the first season he's here.
Right.
He wasn't supposed to go off. And all of a sudden you've got this 7-foot guy that can shoot the ball. And you're like, this guy could actually be a centerpiece to what we actually have to build around. Like, he has a skill set that is very unique that we can put pieces around him. And as we add pieces around him, we can actually make him better.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think the Jazz were expecting that. And I think you nailed it. I think that's exactly what it was, is they just didn't see it coming. And it took him a year to kind of, okay, well, maybe we try to add some pieces to him first before we just tear this whole thing, like we already tore it down, but like maybe we try to add some pieces before we just go full tank mode.
Right.
And they tried that and they're like, okay, no, that's not going to be enough. Like those pieces weren't quite enough for us to be bad enough, and we're not going to be good enough. Like, we don't want to be a fringe team. So they're like, okay, jump it at the trade deadline.
Right.
And then we went into it last year and it was the same thing, right? It was like, yeah, I mean, we were worse for longer last year, but it wasn't a tank season, kind of like this one's felt like, where it was like right out the gate, everyone was on board with, let's lose every single game. Let's go 0-82 if we can, and guarantee a first round pick.
Right.
Or a first overall pick,
right.
Not just a first round. We got plenty of those. But so I think, but the goal in all this has also been to try to develop Lauri and also develop some of these young players and see what they have. And I think the Jazz have been kind of trying to ride the line and say, if some of these guys could show just a touch more, right? If Keontae could get his 3-point numbers up to 40%, if Isaiah Collier can hit 10 assists a game, if Walker Kessler can develop any sort of a 3-point shot, what do we have with this core? If we can get all of these pieces just one notch up in all these specific points, right? And I think they're pushing towards that. And this season's been a great developmental season for the Jazz for all of those things. But at the same time, it's like we had to be all in on the tank.
Right.
So
the next part about that I wanted to touch on was the part of the article where she goes into the fact that the Jazz probably want to be bad next year too, because they have, again, some great talent coming out of the next draft. Obviously, the AJ DeBanza is going to be coming out of the next draft class. You also have Boozer's kid, Cameron Boozer.
Yep,
is going to be a top 3 pick, and there's another kid that I'm forgetting of,
Darren Peterson.
Darren Peterson, that's right.
Yep,
he's also going to be the next. You got another great bunch of players that could be coming out of this one, and I just don't know how. And the part that on this article that bothers me is that she's 100% right on this one. If you want to be bad next year, and if you happen to get Cooper Flagg this year, like, you're going to have to trade Walker Kessler or Lauri Markkanen to be bad enough to get a top 3 pick with Cooper Flagg on your team. If you have Cooper Flagg, Lauri Markkanen, and Walker Kessler, first of all, that's a great front line. You have a couple of guards that know what they're doing in the back, and that's a great starting 5. But unfortunately, you're not going to be bad enough. I don't think you would be.
I think that if the Jazz get Cooper Flagg, I think I know that there's all these prospects, right? There's DeBanza and Peterson and Boozer. The fact is all 3 of these kids are only playing high school basketball right now.
It's a very good point.
You know what I mean? Like, any of those 3 could go to college and just absolutely shit the bed.
Other than AJ.
but he's still only played high school basketball.
Right, but
and yes, he's the number 1 overall pick, but
he's been the number 1 overall prospect in 3 different seasons.
Yeah. And I get that, right? But the fact is if you can get Cooper Flagg, like you said, all of a sudden this team looks much more competitive.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope the Jazz make a decision on whether they want to tank or not soon enough. The fact is I think that there was a conversation with Laurie that said, we will not be in rebuild mode for multiple more years, right? Like, you just signed a contract extension. We are going to make this team competitive. Laurie, you're 27 years old. We want to get this team back on track. We want to start competing to win championships sooner rather than later. I think it was a commitment that was probably made to Laurie. And I think this team is going to push to start winning ball games soon.
No, man, I have to agree with you, man. I think in that case, if the Utah Jazz did land a Cooper Flagg, I do think that this is one of those things where you do see the Jazz pivot. I don't necessarily agree with this point in this article.
Yeah.
I think if they got Cooper Flagg, it would be all hands on deck and they start looking to trade some of this draft capital and some of this depth they have for better frontline guards that they can use to really kind of turn around and make a push for the playoff next year. I really agree with you there. That's another thing though. Did you hear about Cooper Flagg's comments?
I didn't.
So Cooper Flagg has actually made comments in interviews that he may come back. He may go back to
Okay, sorry. Yes, I have heard those.
And while he was on the floor at Duke for the last game of the season, the crowd was chanting one more year, and he looked at the crowd and did the run it back thing. So I think that's positioning from Cooper Flagg. I think whether he can make up to $10 million in NIL next year, if he does decide to go back, he's still losing $3 million off of a rookie salary for his first year to play in the NBA. So he's leaving $3 million on there. And obviously he doesn't care too much about that. What's the difference between 10 and 15, 13 million on your first contract? 2 reasons I think he does not do that is because, one, I think he's only doing it for positioning because he wants to control where he goes.
I agree.
So after he's going to say, I could potentially come back. And then after the draft lottery, he sees where he's going to land to, like the Wizards, who haven't been in a postseason game in 20 years.
Yeah.
And
really don't have anybody on that team that's potentially going to take them there.
Right.
Right. Like, they blew it up. They sent away Kyle Kuzma. They sent away Bradley Beal. Like, that team is, I mean, one of the best damn players on that team is Jared Butler that the Jazz drafted a few years ago. Like,
right.
He's been playing some great basketball for the Wizards, and they're in a very, very early rebuild stage with the Wizards. I do not think that is the best opportunity for Cooper Flagg.
Even when they had good players like Bradley Beal and John Wall, they still couldn't get into the playoffs. So that's kind of what I'm thinking, is that there's a lot of that going on. He might just be controlling where he goes. So watch this. If the Jazz end up getting, for the first time in lottery history for the Jazz, they get the number 1 overall pick, see if Cooper Flagg does decide to go back to Duke. Because that would be a death nail for this team, that we can't even get a player like Cooper Flagg to come to Utah.
I think a team like the Jazz is where Cooper Flagg probably wants to end up. A team that has an all-star currently on the roster. They have up-and-coming stars. They have a great head coach, and they have a history of winning basketball games.
Oh yeah.
And you've got this, SEG that's obviously putting money into the arena. You have an opportunity to come to a place where, I mean, I hate to say it, but as a white basketball player, you're going to be universally accepted.
Unfortunately.
And did you see the Kendrick Perkins interview?
No, I didn't see that.
Okay. So Kendrick Perkins pretty much said, and it's along these same lines, Cooper, and he's like looking at the camera. It's like, Cooper, if the Utah Jazz get the number 1 draft pick, go to the NBA. Right. Anybody else, skip it. Stay another year at Duke.
I don't disagree with Perkins for the first time. I think I agree with Kendrick Perkins, because the other 2 teams that are in that are in the tank race are the Washington Wizards and Portland. Who else is there?
Might be the Pelicans.
Are the Pelicans bad enough?
Maybe. I could pull it up real quick.
Yeah. Take a quick glance at it.
Yeah.
But if you look at all the teams that are available right now, if he did want to continue and go into the NBA, the team that actually has postseason success and actually has shown the ability to grow a team from the ground up and actually make rooms of the playoffs, at least in my opinion right now, it's the Utah Jazz.
It's the Hornets.
Oh yeah. I mean,
so Utah, Washington, Charlotte, and then the Pelicans.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Yeah, I mean that just tells you exactly what it is, right? Like nobody. I mean, Utah is hands down the closest team to contending of Washington, Charlotte, the Pelicans, the Brooklyn Nets, and the 76ers. So the top 6 teams. Utah's the closest team to competing next year.
Right.
So if you want to get into a situation
Maybe
where
the 76ers, I don't know.
I mean, you're putting all of your baskets in all of your eggs in the Joel Embiid basket, which may work out great, and he could be injured for 4.5 more years.
What's his name? What's the other guy on the team there? What's his name? Oh gosh, it's killing me. But you got him with Cooper Flag on the team that actually can be. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, and I can see Philly but Philly's way out of the tank ratings, right? Like he's not going to fall to 6.
Do you think the Dallas Mavericks can drop down far enough?
I don't think so.
They literally only have 8 healthy players on their team right now.
They're currently the 13th worst. They have the 13th worst record in the league.
Okay, so they still got a ways to fall. Even if they lost every single game, they probably wouldn't get there.
Even if they lost the rest of their games, they're not going to get there. I mean, the Jazz have only won 15. Washington's won 15. Washington's going to win one more tonight. Okay.
Yeah. Let's hope. Give us a score update in the chat there. Let us know.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Anyway, folks, we'd love to hear from you on this, folks. We'd love to hear from you on what you think on this. Yeah, I just think, if you think about it though, if he does choose to go back in the draft after the Jazz get the number 1 pick, that's really going to say something about this team and not being able to they can't sign free agents. Nobody wants to come here doing a trade.
And you can't even draft players.
And you can't draft a player like Cooper Flag.
Yeah.
So that's not a great sign. So hopefully that's not the case. Hopefully if the Jazz do get the chance and do make history for this team and get the number 1 overall pick, hopefully he's excited to come here because we would love to have him on the team.
Yep.
Once again, folks, if you have not yet, check us out. Our channel is called Utah Jazz DNA. This is a channel specifically for your Utah Jazz content. Be sure to smash that like button for your boy AJ right over there. Jump in the comments. Let us know what you think. Let us know what you want to chat about in regards to this channel. We'd love to hear from you. Make sure you subscribe. So once we hit 1,000 subscribers, we'll be doing a jersey giveaway. So make sure that you are subscribed for that.